This is You're Not Alone by the J.J. Hawk Band, and this is Janet Chandler. There are some cases where the violence is so overwhelming that people eventually stop seeing the victim clearly. The crime becomes larger than the person. The mythology grows, the headlines grow, the horror grows, and slowly, almost without realizing it, the victim themselves disappears underneath the scale of what happened to them. That cannot be the final outcome for Janet Chandler, because before she became a cold case, a documentary, a courtroom reconstruction, or one of the most disturbing crimes in Michigan history, Janet Chandler was simply a young woman trying to build a life, a daughter from rural Michigan, a student, a person working overnight shifts during a Michigan winter because she was trying to move forward into adulthood the way millions of ordinary people do. And maybe that's the part of what makes this case so emotionally unbearable. There is nothing mythical about Janet's life before the violence. No secret criminal world, no dangerous double life, no grand conspiracy surrounding her. Just a young woman entering a temporary social environment she believed she understood. That's all. And the people who felled her were not hidden predators emerging from the darkness. They were people standing beside her already. People she joked with, worked around, recognized, trusted enough not to fear. That betrayal matters because Janet Chandler's murder is not simply a story about violence. It's a story about what happens when human beings slowly stop recognizing another person's humanity in real time. Not instantly, gradually. One ignored boundary, one humiliation, one joke, one silence, one failure to intervene after another, until eventually a room full of people become capable of adapting themselves to catastrophic suffering instead of stopping it. And afterward, instead of confronting what they had done, they built a story designed to protect themselves from the full moral weight of it. That may be the darkest part of all. Not only that Janet was abandoned inside that house, but that afterwards she was abandoned again. Inside interviews, inside silence, inside the robbery narrative, inside decades of partial truths and minimized memories. For more than 25 years, the public version of Janet Chandler's death concealed the fact that she had been socially isolated and destroyed by people who knew her personally. That truth matters because Janet did not vanish into random violence. She was felled systematically by an environment that normalized cruelty faster than anyone inside it was willing to confront. And maybe that's why this case continues to endure. Not because it's sensational, but because it forces us to confront uncomfortable realities about group behavior, spectatorship, loyalty, silence, and the terrifying human ability to adapt morally to things that should never become normal, especially when social belonging becomes more important than courage. And even after everything, after the trials, the confessions, the documentaries, the appeals, the headlines, and the decades of silence finally breaking, the most important thing to remember is still painfully simple. Janet Chandler should have lived. She should have grown older. She should have had a chance to become a mother, a grandmother, a retired woman telling stories about a strange temporary job she worked in the winter of 1979. Instead, she remains permanently suspended at 22 years old, forever walking out of the Blue Mill Inn believing she is heading toward something harmless, forever surrounded by people who had countless opportunities to save her and chose not to. And for all the analysis, all the reconstruction, all the investigative detail across this series, that is the reality that ultimately matters the most. Not the offenders, not the mythology around the Blue Mill, not the robbery story. Janet, a young woman who deserved ordinary years, ordinary aging, ordinary happiness, ordinary safety. A person whose life should have continued long after that winter night ended. And maybe the final responsibility in telling a story like this is refusing to allow the people who destroyed her to also control the final meaning of her life. Because Janet Chandler was more than what they did to her. She was here, she mattered, and she deserved far better from the world that surrounded her.